Hello guys, it's Kim from Honey Trail Farm and it's finally canning season. You can see the excitement on my face. By the end of the month, I'm sure the excitement will have dissipated because it is a lot of work to put up the food for your family to eat during the winter, but it is so worth it. This is one of my favorite times of the year. It's a lot of hard work, but it's also very satisfying. Especially with tomatoes because I love them and I grow so many, and plus we eat so many tomato-based things in the winter time. I try to can a whole entire year's worth of tomato products. So that's diced tomatoes, tomato sauce, a little bit of tomato paste, tomato juice, salsa. So I'm just now rolling into tomato time where I'm getting more than just what we can eat during the week. I'm getting big ones now, smaller ones. I grow a variety of paste tomatoes, but not very many because I don't like them. So my method of choice I found over the years, because I used to just line up like 3 crock pots that I already owned and use that. But last year I got me a roaster oven. So it's black so you can't really see it, but they sell these on Amazon. In the box stores they have them around holiday time, so Thanksgiving and Christmas, when people are roasting like turkeys and things. So I got mine last year at a big box store. I can't remember which one, but it was very affordable for what I need to use it for. So this is an 18 quart, I believe, if I had to guess, but I don't know for sure. This is how I make large batches of tomato sauce. Now, when I make a tomato sauce to can, I typically just do a very plain tomato sauce. It's just boiled down tomatoes. And then when I pull it out to use it, that's when I season it, because I use the tomato sauce in soups and stews, so like more plain. I put it in chili, I use it for spaghetti and pizza sauce. So I just keep it bare minimum, and then I season it to my liking when I pull it out. I have a bag of frozen tomatoes that I froze last week because the bigger tomatoes were just starting. And that's what you can do if you want to make things with your tomatoes, such as like sauce, but you don't have enough for a batch of sauce when you want to make it, you just core it. So you take the center core out, you slice an X in the bottom, and then when you thaw these, the skins slip right off. Now I'm not gonna even bother thawing them. I'm just gonna, ooh, I forgot to put the pan in. Hold on. There we go. I gotta put the pan in it. I am just gonna throw them into the pan, and then as they thaw and cook, the skins come off, and I just fish the skins out. So whatever you wanted to do, if you wanted to be precise and boil these, like plunge them into boiling water and then to ice water, that'll peel the skins off. I think personally it's an unnecessary step. I just get the skins out while it's cooking, and it always turns out fine. I also don't really, my family doesn't mind the seeds in it. We don't even notice, so I don't run it through a food mill or to separate the seeds out. We just eat it. Now that my already prepared frozen tomatoes are in, I'm going to take my corer. I got this on Amazon a couple years ago, and it's one of my favorite tomato tools. You're gonna take the tomato, you can see the core in the center. This little tool has a little spiky. You just scoop the core out just like that. And then I'm just going to throw it into the patch. Now, I've been having, and I'm sure lots of you are, issues with tomatoes this year because of uneven watering. And it's just because it's been so dry and hot that any amount of water that you give your tomatoes makes them split. And you can eat this, it's perfectly fine. These are just like scabs on the tomato, so it's sealed over its skin, kind of like we would if we got hurt. So I'm just gonna cut those little pieces off and throw it in there, and it will be perfectly fine. As you can see, we're about 3/4 of the way full on this roaster. So not too terribly many, but the season is just beginning. So this video is gonna take me, not you, it'll be a flash for you, but for me it's gonna take a long time. I probably won't be canning these tomatoes until tomorrow, most likely, because I got started a little late today. Now all I'm gonna do is put the lid on top of the roaster oven. I'm gonna turn it to about 220. I think that is the temperature of a crock pot on low, which is what we're trying to achieve here. We're just cooking these low and slow, and they will release their juices, and when they start to, I will come back and show you what I do with that juice that helps make a nice thick sauce. I just Googled it to make sure, and Google says that a crock pot is I'm getting different, you know, things here, but anywhere from 165 to 210 from my sources that are not verified. So I'm gonna turn it down to 175. And my reasoning behind this is that my pot isn't all the way full. If it was all the way full, I would turn it up higher because I want to be able to set it and forget it. And I don't want to burn it on the bottom. So it's much later in the day now. We're about 6.5 hours from when I put these tomatoes in this pot, and they are cooking down now, making lots of juice. So I'm basically just gonna stick my ladle in here and take off the excess liquid and save it in this jar. I'll let it cool down on the countertop, and then I will put it back in the fridge. And when all of these tomatoes have cooked down, I will have a nice good amount so that I can can some tomato juice. Hey guys, it's actually the next day now, which is perfectly fine. My tomatoes cooked all day long, but about the time they were ready to run through the food processor, it was time for bed, and I was not gonna stay up past my bedtime when I could just pop it into the refrigerator and do it today. So that's what I'm gonna do. I like to run my tomatoes through the food processor, and then I will put it back on the stovetop to heat it up before I can it. I pulled about a half gallon of juice, this is just tomato juice, off of these tomatoes, and I will can that as well because I like to use this as like kind of a broth substitute, like in something that's tomato flavored already, like chili or soup or whatever. This is a really good thing to throw in there, and then you're not wasting any of your tomato product. Now you could can these tomatoes after you heat them up, of course, because you want to start with a hot product. But you could can these tomatoes and it would just be like buying cans of like crushed tomatoes because they're like mostly whole. But I like mine already ready to use, like a sauce. So I'm gonna run mine through my food processor and then put it on the stove to heat it up. Now, my canning season is just beginning, so this is really a small batch, but as the season goes on, the batches get bigger. Things like pickled items that you put vinegar in can be water bath canned, as well as tomatoes, but you have to add a certain amount of acid to them to ensure that they're acidic enough to not grow anything inside the jar. If you're unsure or you want to be extra safe, you can pressure can them. My pot was sizzling, it scared me. If you want to be extra safe and you're unsure about it, you can always pressure can these items. It's not going to hurt anything. You're just cooking them longer, so you're cooking more nutrition out of it. But if you want to be safe, then be safe. I feel comfortable water bath canning my tomato products. I am going to add, you can add lemon juice or citric acid. I'm pretty sure I have citric acid on hand in my cabinet. So I'm going to be using citric acid, and if you get the Ball canning book, it tells you exactly how much you need to add. So for the tomato sauce, it recommends adding, for pint jars, a 1/4 teaspoon of citric acid, and for quart jars, half a teaspoon. So that's the way that I'm gonna be going, and there's also a guide for tomato juice in this book as well. That's why I like this book, and typically I don't like books that don't have pictures. So that's, and I read a lot of books, but I like to look at, especially food stuff, you want to like look at the recipe. But unfortunately this book doesn't have pictures, but it's still really good because it tells you exactly what to do. So I'm gonna can both the tomato juice and the sauce in my steam canner because they recommend anything that needs to be processed less than 40 minutes you can put in a steam canner, and these are going to be processed 35 minutes, so that's perfectly fine. The reason why they don't want you to process things longer than 40 minutes is the risk of evaporating all of the water that's in the bottom of the steam canner, because there's really only this much. But I have processed, don't tell them I've processed things longer than that, and it's always been fine. So just use your own discretion, as I always say. I don't want to get in trouble, don't yell at me. But this is just how I do it, and none of us have died yet. I don't know if that's a good way to say that or not. But I'll be back when I'm filling the jars. My sauce is done heating up on the oven. Oh my God. The mailman came and it scared the crap. My sauce is done heating up on the stovetop, so I've got my jars ready here. They're nice and hot. I'm going to be canning in quart jars. You can do pint jars if you want, but our family tends to use more sauce at a time. So I'm going to can in these. Actually, I might throw a couple. We got plenty of time. It's going to be fine. This is the first batch. It's not going to look like much. It's probably going to be like literally 3 quarts. But you got to start somewhere, and at the beginning it just trickles in, and it is what it is. Okay, to add acidity to your tomatoes to make it safe to water bath can, you have to add citric acid or lemon juice, bottled lemon juice, not lemon juice from a lemon. I just get this in the canning section. 1 jar will last you a long time, believe me. Don't breathe it in, it hurts the lungs. I've got the tomato juice I'm gonna can as well. They're processed for the same exact time, so I can put them in together. I forgot what headspace. Let me look it up in my handy dandy book. 1/2 inch headspace, FYI. So I'm just checking to make sure that it's a 1/2 inch headspace, and I already know that it's a little bit over. So I'm just gonna take some out of each jar. The headspace is actually one of the most important parts because you don't want to overfill it because your jars won't seal correctly. Okay, we've got a 1/2 inch headspace. I have actually got just a tiny bit of the sauce left, not enough to put in even a quart jar. So I'm just gonna put it in this jar, and it'll just be chunky tomato juice. It'll be fine. Out of all those tomatoes, I got 4 jars of product from it. So it may not seem like a lot, but if you do this a couple times a week or once a week, it really adds up. Okay, to each jar, you have to add 1/2 teaspoon of citric acid. Oh, goes right in your lungs. Then I'm gonna take my little chopstick and I'm just gonna swirl it around in there. It's going to boil in the canner anyway, so it'll get mixed up, but I like to mix it in a little bit. Now I filled up my steam canner with water as far as I possibly can, all the way up until the bottom of this tray that sits under here, because it is going to process for the maximum amount of time. I want to make sure that there's enough water in there that it doesn't get evaporated. But while that is warming up, I am going to clean the rim of my jar, and I usually always just use vinegar. So I put vinegar on a clean rag, and then I wipe the rim of the jar all the way around. That just gets any little splashes, spills, or debris or whatever off the rim of the jar so that your lid can seal all the way down correctly. All I have to do after that is take my lids, dry them off, and center them on the jar. Okay, something that I'm gonna tell you because nobody told me this. I read things, but I'm really a visual learner, so I read the things that say center it on the jar, and I'm like, what do you mean center it? Because you can only put it on one way, so how would you get it off center? If you want your jars to look uniform is the word I'm looking for. If you want all your jars when it's sitting on the shelf to look uniform, make sure the writing, like this ball writing, is facing you when you're putting the lid on, and so is the ball emblem on the front of the jar. Pretty sure that's what centering means, and I'm pretty sure most people know that, but if you didn't and nobody told you, I'll tell you. It's not a secret. I felt like one day I figured it out and I was like, duh. Maybe that's why they don't have to tell people, but I never knew. I never knew that secret. And I wanted everything to look pretty. Okay, turn the jar around. First tomatoes of the season going on the canner. Okay, so now all I'm gonna do is sit these on the rack inside the steam canner. Put the lid over top, and then wait. I'm gonna pay attention to the dial in the middle. Once it reaches the green part for my altitude, I'll start a timer. Quart jars, I just looked it up, have to be processed for 40 minutes in the steam canner. So you start your timer once it gets to the green part of your dial for your elevation, and let it process for 40 minutes, and that's it. The reason I like steam canners better than water bath canners is because in a water bath canner you have to heat up all of the water in that pot, and it just takes forever. The steam canner, you're just heating the water up at the bottom. It creates steam that creates pressure inside of the canner, and it also self-regulates. Like if you watch it, it will like let steam out, and that's your cue to turn the heat down a little bit because you don't want the canner to have to continue to keep letting steam out. It should just let the steam out of the back hole. That's how you know that it has the perfect temperature, when it's not bubbling up on its side, because it'll lift a little bit and let steam out. But I found this, or I saw somebody using a steam canner a couple years ago, and I have never looked back. This is my favorite canning tool besides a pressure canner. My jars have processed for 40 minutes, and then when your 40-minute timer goes off, you set another timer for 5 minutes. It's been long, it's been about 10 minutes now, but that's perfectly fine. That you turn the heat off, and you just let it, the pressure inside the pot come back down. But after the 5 minutes, you're clear to remove the top. You can hear it sizzling. Then I'm just going to take my tongs and very carefully, not tipping the jars or moving them around too much. I'm gonna move my pickles out of the way. You just put it on I like to use a towel just on top of the countertop, and I'm gonna let these sit for 24 hours. After that time, they should be nice and cooled down, and that's when you check your jars to make sure that they have sealed. If they haven't sealed, you can process them again for the same time to reseal the jar, or you can just put it in your fridge and use it quicker. It feels good to have the first tomatoes of the season into jars. I know it may not seem like much, but it's really going to add up as the season goes on. your batches tend to get bigger and bigger as you get more tomatoes off your plants. I just want to encourage you guys that even if you haven't canned anything before, just to put some food away for your family this year. This year especially, because I think it's more important than ever to have things prepared ahead of time is all I'm going to say about that. But thank you guys for watching. Until next time.